Spawning in the bottom position of Pillars of Gold. This is from the round of 24, Group A. Give it up for our red French Terran. He is CLEM. And his opponents up here in the top, hailing from South Korea. Give it up for BYUN. So this is an epic TVT. We've all seen how CLEM has really come into his own in this tournament, especially building himself up a very nice base of which to prepare himself for future tournaments, as we do kind of see both players going to be going for that double refinery build. So with that, they are going to be able to just get that factory out a little bit quicker, and that's going to be very important for if you want to play a defensive game, if you want to play an aggressive game, just if you really want to play a later stage game at all, you really do need to make sure that you do get enough gas very, very quickly. Looks like BYUN's just a millisecond ahead on this build, but it is a true mirror matchup to start things off. We should see right after this the factory come on in, and there you go. And right after that, you just pull the workers off of the refineries so that you can get that natural CC started up as quick as you like. Looks like BYUN's going to be mining a little bit more gas than CLEM, so let's just keep an eye out for that if he does decide to go for maybe a fast Raven, a couple of additional Vikings. Who's to say, as there's a lot of things that could happen with just one extra worker on that gas. And yeah, now we just have this very small moment where there's not going to be too much happening until that first big engagement with the Reapers. And it's going to be kind of just a game of chicken, who jumps first into their opponent's base. I think overall, BYUN is a little bit more of an aggressive Terran player, so it will probably be him who decides to make the first move. But there you go. Now the builds, they look like they were about to diverge, actually, as we do have BYUN going to be going for the Widow Mine behind this. That's a pretty safe strategy there, because once you get that Widow Mine up, you can plant it down and maybe kind of just get information on your opponent, send it across the map with these units, and just be a little bit of a nuisance with it. Plenty of things that you can do. CLEM, on the other hand, does have that first siege tank ready and raring to go. So that's going to be very good for positional play. And BYUN even going to take it a little bit of a step further here, going for that going for the Cyclone. Okay, that's a little bit of a later Cyclone because he spent so much time getting that Widow Mine out. But I actually like this a little bit, because he is just going to be sending a big medevac drop across the map. CLEM will respond with a tinier drop of his own, just that one siege tank and the Marines, and they are actually going to catch each other in the middle of the map here. But now the path is set, so BYUN has to make this work. The Widow Mine, though, going to have some different options for him. Gets that siege, gets that Hellion down very, very quickly. But now CLEM is going to be able to set himself up in a very nice position down here at the bottom, denying mining at that bottom location. The drop has come down on this side. 3 workers so far for BYUN. But he will have to lift up and get out. Oh, he gets the Cyclone. He gets a good lock on there. He's just got to keep the Cyclone alive for just a little bit longer, and doesn't get it in the very end there. A little bit trying to focus fire. Gets stuck on the Marine in the backfield. Oh my goodness, this is not good. The SCV being a hero at the very last second, though. That should be enough to finally clean this up. after 11 workers going down. Oh my goodness. And Clem's not done with this either. He's got that Viking going to be coming in to give him a little bit more air control, as there's not really anything in the air other than this Raven for BYUN. Did he lose the medevac on the other side? It looks like he did. In all the chaos and commotion, he just gets taken down in that way. And now the Cyclone going to be coming in as well. Clem is just looking for the jugular right now. So BYUN is going to have to be very, very careful. And I don't know if he's going to have enough to stop this next big wave. Auto turret going to be coming down in the backfield. The siege tank is sieged up. So that will go down on BYUN's side. The Banshee, no cloak. And Clem beating BYUN at his own game, the early game, will take a very fast game number 1. So BYUN, remember, he doesn't have any more lifelines in these Group A series, as this is a best of 3. So, I mean, he's going to have to be... I don't want to say that he's going to have to be a lot more aggressive, because we saw he was aggressive. But he's going to have to play it a little bit more positionally and be a little bit more careful about where he decides to move in. And speaking of the devil, down here in the bottom position for the Shopify Rebellion, give it up for BYUN. And his opponents spawning up in the top, the young Frenchman himself, Clem. All right. So obviously that was a very good position for Clem to get himself into early on. Just using a much more concerted drop effort. Obviously BYUN had a much more mobile army, but it wasn't enough to get the damage that he was receiving on his end of the map. So now we see these guys going for roughly the same thing to start things off. Both refineries have been taken. The gas will flow. And while that does delay your natural CC for just a couple of extra seconds, again, it's not that big a deal because it will allow you to get up that factory so much quicker. And obviously, if you guys remember Group A, Clem looked fantastic in a lot of his games. I won't give any spoilers for it because that's what these replays are for. But just really taking down players that you really wouldn't expect out of him. Now we do see BYUN going to be playing this one a little bit more cautious. Sends that first Reaper out, looking for the proxy locations. And actually, it's a true mirror matchup because Clem is matching him scout for scout. Just really scared is both of these guys. Remember, you only get a certain number of lives in this group series, so you got to win as many maps as possible. Even going down 0-1 can be very detrimental to your health. Just because, remember, only 3 people get out, and there are 6 in these groups. Looks like Clem has said that he liked what BYUN was doing, and he's going to give it a little bit of a shot of himself. As we see the Hellions and the Reapers kind of just hanging out. I like where BYUN is positioning his units, just because that is one of the best ways to kind of catch your opponent off guard, is to send them around the side of Death Aura. So I kind of just expecting that out of Clem, but neither side, once again, going to be too aggressive. They're just going to stay at home and wait for the drops to come down. And funnily enough, it is the exact opposite of last game, as we have a siege tank on this side. So a big 4 Marine, 1 siege tank drop. But now there's that little bit of a lull as we wait for this to really hop off. Looks like 1 Marine missed the boat. So that means this push is going to have a little bit less staying power. And honestly, Clem has not moved out at all. So most of his units are at home to help defend. Oh no, this is bad. The Hellion gets caught out, gets a little bit of splash on that siege tank. So BYUN is forced to unload here in the front, and he will have to go home. He can't find a good position to fight into. So now the Reaper's going to be looking for their counterparts to get those killed off. They can still be a little bit of a threat for Clem, but now he is in a wonderful position deflecting that. Looks like he catches a little bit of wind here for BYUN to be coming in here with this drop. Gets the Cyclone in position, and again, just shutting down pretty much everything that BYUN throws at him. Funny enough, if we take a look at the units lost, that was... BYUN does have a small deficit here because he did get something canceled, I believe. But yeah, just a really good kind of paper tiger kind of situation. And by that I mean that both sides are trying to exert dominance, but they're just not finding any room to do so. Clem baring his teeth a little bit, coming out to the middle of the map into those acceleration zones. The Reaper getting taken down right there. Now BYUN sends a small smattering of units this way. He will catch the Ravens in his grip, and that gives him all the information that he needs, so he's gonna have to hold on to this position. But this is a lot out of a Clem. 2 siege tanks, 2 Ravens, 2 Vikings. It's like Noah's Ark in here. While BYUN, he still has that 1 Raven, so that's going to help out a bit, but that means you don't have as many lockdowns for those siege tanks. Clem wisely deciding to back off for the moment as BYUN just inching his way forward. But he will be training out the Cyclone. That's not the best situation. And these Marines following along with the medevac. Those are going to be out of spot. The Ravens looking to come in for that lockdown, but they're not going to do so just yet. Try to just set himself up in the back with the siege tanks before he does decide to do so. So now the big problem for BYUN is that he has absolutely no map or air presence. So he's not going to be able to really hold on to well. Small drop though. It's going to be denying mining on the 3rd base. If he can get that Liberator, that would be fantastic. But this is just going to try and pull a little bit of Clem's attention away as he's rotating around to the other side. BYUN, though, has not reset his tanks. And that's going to give Clem the opportunity to get up that ramp. The Marines taking one big shot. Not enough vision until that scan goes down. And he loses the Raven as well. Oh my goodness, this is not the best situation for BYUN at all. Just gently trying to reposition those tanks, but he has lost his natural. It lifts up, tries to get out of there, but the Marines are enough to kind of just shut that down. A couple of SCVs pulled on this side for BYUN. And he does have stim. So that's one of his biggest strengths right now, is that he can take these fights a little bit better. But again, just no air presence whatsoever. not allowing him to reposition these siege tanks at all, and even the Vikings just going to drop so they can clean up the rest of this tank line. There you go. BYUN recognizing the situation he's in, sends a lot of those SCVs down to repair. And it looked like he wanted to break through, but deciding against it. Yeah, you can see he's kind of just positioning himself in order to do so. Third base getting a little bit low, but here we go. Siege tanks firing away on those SCVs, so 14 more of them will go down. But it looks like BYUN will be able to hold, but at what cost, Kalaris? Taking a look at that, in the span of that fight, over 29 workers have fallen. Now, even though he does have 3 bases set and operational, you know, meals aren't going to be as good in a mirror matchup. Oh, BYUN recognizes the situation he's in. He's got that Doom Drop loaded up straight for the main base. Might want to send that medevac home. It's not really going to help you out too much. And it looks like CLEM has already gotten wind of this one as well. He's got his Marines just ready to pounce, and the Viking is in position. Gets one. A little bit of a stem forward as the tank siege ups in the backfield. And there's just a little bit too much for CLEM here. Gets right on top of that siege tank that only gets one shot. And you know, the Marine count has been deafened. So it will allow him to kind of rotate around to this location. He can't go too much further. But this is definitely a position where he can get plenty of counter damage in. But as that starts to get cleaned up, taking a look at all the supply, even though he has fewer Marines, he's got 6 siege tanks, 2 Vikings, and a good smattering of economy here on 4 bases. Even gonna have his +2 upgrades much, much quicker. So the big thing for BYUN, if he can continuously just get damage with these drops, it would be his way back into it. Even just getting some of the production would be fantastic for him. But now that CLEM knows that's the game plan, he's just going to be set up to block any sort of attempt to get in. All right, gets a small cancel on that CEC. That's nice. I think the production tab is telling the big story as well. Only 2 Marines were in production for BYUN. Kind of take a look. What is the structure count looking like? Yeah, 8 to 5 on terms of those racks. No additional factories for replenishing the siege tank line either. And CLEM, with an over 50 army supply advantage, is just going to be pushing into this location. Oh man, focus fire down the Vikings, and you might have a better shot. But insta-cancels up there. BYUN going to be making his way in, but there is a little bit too much on the defense. Now CLEM just slowly going to be inching his way forward, especially with that Liberator in the sky. Just going to forcefully reposition those tanks over and over and over again. BYUN knows that he had to take that out, but that was a very costly trade for him. And now CLEM just going to lift up, go straight into the natural. That doesn't seem like the best option, actually, as he loses one almost full medevac. My goodness here. CLEM almost throwing the game away with that move, as BYUN now has that air control that he was looking for with this single solitary Viking. Still gonna have to do something with this drop, but I think really Clem has just recognized that that's gonna be happening as a little bit of a fighting retreat for Clem. Small siege ups here and there as he gets another cancel on the 4th. But Clem, oh my god, he actually just took some huge tank fire there. Loses a good majority of his siege tanks, and now he's a little bit trapped behind the army of BYUN. But as the reinforcements coming home, the second wave of Clem's army is barreling down on the 3rd base. He's got +3 upgrades started, and while there are enough siege tanks, it looks like they're not going to be enough as Clem rotates them around, gets the 3rd. And he is looking to finish this one. Clem takes the series 2-0. GG.